If your company has an outdated website that struggles to generate leads and close sales, then it's almost certainly time for a redesign. But where do you even start? In this video, I'll be breaking down all the key steps your company needs to follow to ensure it's properly prepared to redesign its website. Everything we'll be talking about here today is based on my experience over the past 5 years working as an independent Webflow developer and for a digital marketing agency. So whether you're a business owner or an in-house marketing director, this video will walk you through everything you need to know about and consider before reaching out to potential agencies and freelancers to help you redesign your company's website. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. How's it going? If you're new here, my name is Bailey Canning. I'm an independent marketing consultant / Webflow developer. And like I said in the intro today, this video will walk you through all the key features, functionality, and deliverables you're going to need to have a good understanding about before you can reach out to any potential freelancers or agencies to help you redesign your company's website. We will be getting into that all very shortly, but if you're new here, I would definitely appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to my channel because I'm putting out one video per week covering topics such as branding, web design, digital marketing, etc. Basically giving you all the tools and information you need to transform your website into the ultimate marketing machine. So definitely subscribe to my channel, and without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so as you plan out a redesign of your company's website, what I want you to do is start with an end in mind. And by that, I mean actually having specific marketing and sales goals that you want this new website to help your company achieve. So the framework I really like to start with is the SMART goals framework, and that simply stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. For example, when I'm working with a client to redesign their website, generally they come to me looking to increase the amount of leads the site is generating. And so if we bring that back to the SMART goals framework, the S would stand for specific. So what lead form specifically do we actually want to increase leads in? Generally speaking, this will be the consultation form or just the main contact form on the website. The M, which stands for measurable, would be the increase in leads we want to see. So for example, let's just use a nice number of 25% within the 3 months following the launch of the website. The A, which stands for achievable, is really just a check-in with yourself on whether or not the goal is actually going to be feasible. And I would say a 25% increase in leads should be the bare minimum you expect over 3 months post redesigning your company's website. So absolutely, I would say that is achievable. The next one is relevant. And of course, relevance to the business here is an increase in leads going to help sales and revenue. And of course, that's a resounding yes. So we're good there. And then lastly, time bound. We are setting a specific time that we want to achieve this, namely 3 months. So that is an example of one primary goal that could be used on the website. I would recommend not setting more than 2, maybe 3, because ultimately, if you spread yourself too thin trying to achieve too many things, you can't do that. So I'd really recommend setting a primary marketing and sales goal. And then after that, you can have different ancillary goals that you would like to see. So some other examples that you might want to include in terms of marketing would be an increase in website traffic, an increase in SEO keyword rankings. If you're trying to use the website as a platform to attract new talent to the company, maybe an increase in the amount of people applying for jobs. A lot of these goals are very specific to your company and its current situation, but I think you're starting to get an understanding of where I'm coming from. Really, what I want to drill home here is that making the website prettier or just more beautiful or whatever the case is really not a specific goal. I really want you to think about what specific business objectives are we looking to achieve, and then write those down as your primary reasons for actually investing in a new website for your company. The next thing we got to talk about real quick is branding. The reason why it makes sense to revisit your company's branding, and by branding I mean its logo, its colors, the fonts it's using on both its online and offline marketing assets, as well as the specific types of client avatars you are looking to serve and do business with. Now, when you're redesigning your company's website, you're basically overhauling its entire online presence, essentially. Since you're already taking a lot of time and investing a lot of money in redesigning the entire website, you might also want to consider doing either a rebrand or just a slight brand refresh. So obviously a lot of this is going to be very context specific on where your company stands. Maybe you just had a logo done a year ago and that's fine. Or maybe the logo is from the 1980s and everybody knows it. Something that's important to consider, because if you're going to be doing a lot of branding work, then you probably also want to hire either a freelancer or agency that can also help you in that department, because in my experience, these projects generally go best when you have a single point of contact handling all of those deliverables. The next thing you're going to want to look into is the analytics so that you can understand how your company's website is currently performing. This is very important because ultimately, to get to where you want to go, you need to know where you're currently starting out. For example, let's say you wanted to take your family on a road trip to Yosemite National Park this upcoming summer. Whether you're starting out from California or New Jersey, the route you would need to take on either of those two starting places would be completely different. And honestly, it's the same thing in marketing. The route you need to take to achieve your sales and lead gen goals are going to be dramatically different based on where you're starting out. So that is why you really need to understand the analytics. I know this can be very daunting for many of you out there, but really all I would say is that you want to have at least a baseline understanding of the website's traffic. So how many people are visiting the website? What sources are they coming from? Is it social media? Is it SEO? Is it paid traffic? You can find all this information in Google Analytics. I'd also really encourage you to get a solid understanding of all the SEO keyword rankings your site is currently ranking for. Generally, this requires some paid software. The one I prefer at the moment is SE Ranking, but there's a bunch of tools out there where you can basically just plug in the URL of your website and it'll show you all the keywords your site is currently ranking for and what page of Google it is ranking for. If you don't have access to that, then I would definitely recommend at least checking out Google Search Console, which is Google's free SEO tool. Basically, you can get a solid understanding of how many clicks you're getting from Google search as well from there and what keywords people are searching for before they find your website. Lastly, I would also recommend reviewing all of the lead forms on your website and just going through and seeing how often are people filling out forms, what's the quality of the leads looking like, all that type of stuff. You might also want to have a solid understanding of how fast your website currently loads on both mobile and desktop devices. There's a bunch of free tools online that'll help you figure this out real quick. I recommend Google Page Speed Insights or GT Metrics. And don't worry, I will be posting links into all the resources I mentioned in the description below if you want to jump right over to that. Now, if all that sounds daunting, regardless, whatever agency or freelancer you hire should be doing all this work eventually themselves, but I do think it is helpful for you to just have a solid understanding yourself, just so you're actually able to have a productive conversation with the people you'll eventually be getting on consultation calls with. The next thing you're really going to want to get a handle on before contacting any freelancers or agencies is the competitive landscape. Now, this is something, and this is kind of a recurring theme in this video, all the areas we're talking about I do help my clients with, but I do think it's helpful for you to have a solid understanding of what this looks like. Even if you just take 5 to 10 minutes to research all the areas we're talking about, it's going to make a huge difference. Competitive research is certainly something I do on every website project I take on because you need to have a solid understanding of how the competition is leveraging their website, how they're speaking about their services, how they're positioning themselves in the local market, what the design of their website looks like, because ultimately to create an effective website, you need to know how both the local and national competition is leveraging their website, because one, you're going to want to emulate in certain areas what they're doing well, and two, you're going to want to look and understand that how they are weak and how you can take this information and you're going to want to use this information to your benefit. So when it is finally time to redesign your company's website, you're going to be able to design a website that is differentiated from the competition and immediately stands out as people are in research mode. And another reason why this is very important that you need to consider the competition is that when prospective clients land on your website, they're not doing it in a vacuum. Likely they'll be Googling around and opening up multiple tabs of different companies that might be able to help them achieve what they're after. And so that's why it's super important for one, standing out, but then two, delivering a better experience. And then three, ultimately improving the marketing effectiveness of the website. The next area to focus on is the copy of your current website. This is very important because the copy ultimately is going to have a far bigger role to play in influencing whether or not visitors of the site fill out a form and convert into a lead than the design, because the design of the website is ultimately going to catch people's attention and get them to stick around. But once they're actually spending some time on the website, the next thing they're naturally going to do is going to be engaging with the content of the website, and obviously the copy plays a huge role there. So the quality of your copy is one of the most important aspects of your website. It is directly responsible to generating leads, and that is why whether you hire a freelancer or an agency to redesign your website, you want to know that they have the chops to write really quality copy, because ultimately if they can't do that, or if they pass it on to you and expect you to write the copy even though you're not a copywriter, then honestly you're going to really be hampering the lead gen effectiveness of your future website. So I would recommend auditing the copy of your current website just to know how much copy work is going to need to be done, because if you've had a professional copywriter do the copy of your website in the past, then there's a high chance you could probably copy and paste a lot of sections over. Obviously, a lot of new content will need to be developed, but If not, if the copy is very all over the place, then honestly, you're probably going to need to hire a copywriter or at least ensure that the agency or freelancer, like I mentioned before, can handle the copy. So when it comes to evaluating the copy on your current website, there's 4 main areas I want you to consider as you review it. 1, the audience. So put yourself in the shoes of your ideal prospect and ask yourself, if you were them, would it be very obvious based on the copy of the website that your business works with the types of people you're trying to reach? The second area is the problem. So in the copy of the website, are you introducing the problems that you actually help prospective clients solve? This is very important because we want to have some sort of narrative throughout the website as a whole, because that's how we're going to be able to tell a cohesive story that actually resonates with people and helps them remember the messaging of your brand. But then also, as your prospective clients are reading the copy and they're resonating with the problems you're bringing up, they're going to know that your company is the one who can actually help them solve those problems. Piggybacking off of that, the next thing we're going to want to talk about is the solutions in the copy. So a lot of this can obviously be talked about with the services your company provides, but basically you want to outline the problems that your prospective client is likely facing as of this moment, but then also paint a picture of what the solutions you offer look like so they can understand at the end of the day if hiring you will help them solve those problems. The last area where you should be evaluating the copy on is just the overall messaging. So as you're reading the copy, whether you're on the home page, the about page, the services page, etc., is there a central main narrative that is very clear? Because ultimately, that is what you want to tell a cohesive brand story that's going to resonate with people and that's going to stand out from the competition. If you want a framework that you can use to develop an interesting brand story for your company, then definitely check out the video I did on the Story Brand Workshop. It's based on a book by Donald Miller. I've done it with a lot of clients so far, and they've all found it to be super helpful. I will link that here so you can watch it after this. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video and getting a lot of value out of it, and you want to pick my brain on your company's current website and or marketing performance, then definitely feel free to book a free strategy call with me. I will gladly take the time to jump on a quick call, learn more about your business, and ultimately help you map out a marketing game plan to achieve your company's marketing and sales goal. Lastly, if all this sounds very overwhelming to you, I actually do offer a website audit and marketing roadmap. It's called the Growth Marketing Roadmap. Basically, it's a 2-week micro engagement covering every single topic that we've talked about today. It allows us to both get a good sense of whether or not we would be good to work together. And I've designed it to where if you want to move forward with me designing your website, we can seamlessly do that. Or if you want to go in a different direction by hiring a different agency or freelancer, you can certainly go ahead and do that. But the insights you'll be getting from this growth marketing roadmap are immense and will help you really hit the ground running in the next phase of the project. So link in the description if you want to learn more about that, or if you just want to book the marketing strategy call as well, that is also available. So at this point, you probably have a really solid understanding of how your website is performing and a lot of other ideas for how to improve its performance. What I would recommend you do now is start to outline what actual deliverables you're going to need from whoever you hire to redesign the website. So I'd recommend putting in a list of deliverables on what pages you think you're going to need, what features and functionality you're going to need, and then miscellaneous list of any other things that you think the website is going to need. So maybe you know that you have a large CMS library of blog posts or videos or podcasts, etc., and you know that's going to need to be migrated over. That's definitely something you're going to want to let the agency or freelancer you end up working with know about. Another key thing that you'll want to prepare for at this stage is letting the agency or freelancer you'll be working with know about the visual direction you would like to take the new website in. As you're doing all this research, you probably will be looking at a lot of different websites. So I would simply recommend just keeping a Word doc open or something similar where you can just bookmark links of websites that you like. Doesn't necessarily need to be industry specific, although I would try to get a healthy mix of both websites in your industry that you really like the look of, as well as websites outside your industry, because honestly, if you can bring design elements from websites that are not in your industry, that's going to really go a long way ensuring that your website, the redesigned one, will be able to stand out. The agency or freelancer you work with will likely request this from you, but you don't want to find yourself in a situation where the project's already started and you're having a hard time finding these resources. And I figured just as you're doing this research anyway, you might as well just save a couple examples of the sites that you like. And so when it comes time to send this over to the company or freelancer you're working with, you'll just have it right on hand and it'll make things a lot more seamless. Another thing you're going to want to consider is what platform will the redesigned website be built on. Now, for example, maybe the current version of your website is built on WordPress and your team is just not a fan of it. Maybe it's hard to make updates. Maybe you've had a situation where it just goes down for no apparent reason. Or maybe you're a scrappy entrepreneur who built the website themselves using something like Wix or Squarespace, but you know that to reach the next level of business growth, you're going to have a much more robust platform that allows you to really leverage the website as a true online online marketing machine. Regardless, ultimately, whoever you hire to redesign the website should advise you based on your goals and your business needs, and especially the needs of the marketing team, what the best platform to build a new website is. Honestly, if you've been following my channel for any length of time here, you know I am a huge fan of Webflow. I will link my top 5 favorite Webflow features, which are going to be very specific to clients as well here in this example. But ultimately, Webflow just allows you to quickly and efficiently design awesome looking websites that allow you to achieve any design on the web, and then have the technical infrastructure to make managing the website super easy, making the website load super fast. Basically, all the bells and whistles that a modern website platform should have, Webflow has. It's undoubtedly the best website builder. I am Webflow exclusive on every single project these days, and so obviously you know which one I like, but ultimately it comes down to what your specific needs are going to be. But at least at this point in time, you should have a general understanding of what you like about your current website platform and what you don't like, and then with that information, it's going to make it a lot easier for whoever you hire to recommend the best website platform to build your new website on. So we're almost done here. The next thing you're going to want to have a solid understanding of, at least for your own sake, is the budget that you can afford to invest when hiring a freelancer or agency to redesign your company's website. Now, ideally, you will have at least $10,000 to invest in this new website. That's really the baseline minimum you're going to have to pay to have a really solid professional agency and or freelancer strategize, design, develop, and launch the website. Ultimately, yes, you can go on Fiverr and find someone to build you a website for like $500, but you really do get what you pay for when it comes to designing your website, both in the end product you'll get, but also just in the process working with whoever you decide to hire. And in my experience, $10,000 is generally a good starting point for having the proper amount of budget to be able to actually take the time and develop a really well thought out strategy, do all the research that you're going to need to inform that strategy, and then to just spend the time going through several different design iterations. And once you align on that design, to actually have a professional developer who's going to ensure that that design gets coded on the website in a smooth, efficient process, and then ultimately that you can launch the website in a reasonable time frame as well. When it comes to considering the cost of the website, one, I really would not recommend even thinking about it as a quote unquote cost. Rather, I would recommend you view it as an investment, because this is something that should be generating new business for your company, which is ultimately going to generate leads and sales, and of course, increased revenue. So that is why I really recommend looking at it as an investment. So for example, if you were going to buy Apple stock, you probably wouldn't put that on your personal budget finance spreadsheet or whatever as an expense. Rather, you probably have a separate category there for investments, because you expect, for example, if you invest $1,000 in Apple, you expect 10 years from now that to probably be like $2,000, right? And it's the same with your website. So if you invest $10,000 by the next quarter, honestly, you should be having $15,000 of revenue at least to show for that. And then after that, of course, it's all just going to be a higher return on investment. Now, maybe you have a huge budget and you know that you're going to need to invest more than $10,000 to achieve all the revenue and sales goals your company has set out. Then, as a general rule of thumb, and this is one of the few rules of thumb that is still around from the Mad Men days of advertising, I would recommend budgeting 10% of your company's target revenue towards marketing in general, both online and offline activities. Then from whatever number you get from that 10%, then you can think about what portion of that makes sense to allocate towards redesigning your website. So of course, we got to talk about timeline as well. Ultimately, for a company or freelancer to properly research, strategize, design, develop, and launch your website, I would say it should take no longer than 60 to 90 days. Otherwise, 2 to 3 months or 1 quarter of business. The reason for this is that you really cannot afford to get dragged into some sort of art project for your business that takes anywhere between 6 to 12 months. And yes, I have seen website projects take 6 to 12 months, even longer sometimes. And the reason why you can't afford this, literally and figuratively, is that as the website is in the design phase where it's getting worked on in the background before it's ready for the world to see, you really cannot afford that process to stretch out over 3 months or a quarter of business, because while it's being designed, it's not producing any business results for your company. And it's still going to have, at the end of the day, that outdated website up and live for everyone to see, which if you're watching this video, you know is not producing any results for your business. So what I've been doing with my clients over the past year or so, and it's really worked out quite well, I would say, is that basically I would look to match up the scope of work to fit that 60 to 90 day window I just talked about. And so I would consider that to be a phase 1 build, where you're looking to develop all the key pages and functionality you absolutely need to have for this redesigned website, and then all of the nice to haves or bells and whistles that you would like to have on the website, but perhaps just based on the timeline are not going to be feasible for launch, then you can tackle those in a phase 2 or a phase 3 website and add on to the website. Because ultimately, these websites are living, breathing digital assets. They're always going to be changing. They're always going to need to get updated. So I always tell my clients, let's start with a phase 1 build for at least $10,000. And then once we have that, then we can launch the website in a quarter where you can start recouping that initial cost right away. And then in subsequent quarters, you can always move on with a phase 2, a phase 3, even a phase 4 or 5 build where you're adding new pages, functionality, features, etc. So that's what I would recommend. Keep the scope of work reasonable for this initial website build, and then look to add on additional features, pages, functionality, anything else you might need in the future in subsequent builds once you at least have a solid redesigned website up and running. And last but certainly not least, during this planning phase, you're going to want to take the time to think about what does the day after the website launch look like for your company. And what I mean by this is that you really want to have a solid understanding of what marketing strategies you're going to pursue once the new website gets launched. So maybe once a new website gets launched, you know, for example, that you're really going to go all in on paid traffic, whether that be on Meta or Google Ads. The reason why you want to know this is because potentially the agency or freelancer you end up working with might also offer marketing services. And so if they can also help you with the branding, like I mentioned at the start of this video, and they're able to help you with your website, and they're able to help you with your marketing, ideally, it's probably going to be best for your company to have one company or individual handling all of that, because basically it'll just end up being a much smoother process, and ultimately the website will end up getting designed and developed in a way that is going to be able to best leverage the marketing effectiveness going forward. So really, ideally, in a perfect world, you'll have one person handle all the branding, web design, and marketing work for your company. I'm doing this with multiple companies right now, and so in my experience, especially working with agencies where a lot of times we would take over a website that was done either by a different agency or a freelancer, it was a lot harder to get started in that circumstance. So the sooner you can build a relationship with someone you trust, who's going to do a good job, who's going to take the time to learn about your business, you're going to see better results for the most part if they're also able to handle the marketing after the website. On that note, I'd also recommend ensuring that whoever you hire is also going to be able to be in a position to maintain and manage the website going forward. This way, if anything ever happens, like, it just goes down in the middle of the night one day, you have someone you can contact. Ideally, they'll already be on the ball with that. Basically, ensuring that the website does have some sort of care plan in place on top of a marketing plan afterwards is going to be super critical for getting the most out of your website once it's been redesigned, and ultimately leveraging it as a super effective marketing and lead gen tool for your business. So that is pretty much it for me in this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, like the video, subscribe to my channel because I'm putting out content just like this on a weekly basis. I was also considering recommending how to vet agencies and freelancers, but quite honestly, I think this video has been long enough, and I do have a video from about 2 years ago on the channel going over exactly how to do that, so I will link it up here as well. It'll also be in the description if you think that could be helpful. If you watch that video, it'll basically go over all the key things you need to consider when it comes to choosing either a freelancer or agency. I will say on that topic, there is no one-size-fits-all answer. Ultimately, it comes down to your company, how big it is, what it needs out of its partner, etc. Because honestly, I can make good arguments for both a freelancer and an agency. It all just depends on what exactly you're looking for and what you value in a marketing and web design partner. If you're still here, I appreciate you watching this far. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy. Bye.